Researchers of past world wars sometimes encounter things that, from their point of view, are inexplicable. The main one is the famous impossibility of victory for the USSR. Dozens of Western economists have counted and recalculated, but the result was the same. The experience of all military confrontations teaches us that an economy with a large margin of safety will overwhelm the weakest in the end. The might of all Nazi-occupied Europe, backed by British and American resources and money, should have buried the USSR. But it could not. The Wehrmacht recruits were trained before and at the beginning of the war for 16 weeks, up to 6 months for the SS security detachments. Soldiers were exhausted by physical exertion, but well fed. No ammunition was spared for firearms training. The soldiers were trained in a standardized manner, according to approved manuals. New recruits lacked flexibility, but in standard situations they acted very quickly and successfully. The Soviet Union, which had suffered heavy losses at the start of the war, could not afford to train its soldiers for very long. Infantrymen were trained for 2, seldom 3 months. And they were not really fed. The country was bleeding. In addition to the statutory tasks, they tried to involve experienced frontline soldiers in the training, who explained to the newcomers how to beat the lauded Wehrmacht. All successful solutions and tricks were brought to the attention of the whole army in order to increase the effectiveness of the combat. There was no special propaganda. Soldiers were simply told about deeds of German superhumans. This was in addition to personal hatred. Many recruits had family members who had suffered in one way or another from the humanity of the self-appointed Aryans. Already at the beginning of the war, when the Germans outnumbered the Russians in combat power, hand-to-hand combat was an unpleasant discovery for the Wehrmacht. Trained soldiers ran in panic from yesterday's schoolchildren, students, and workers. Later, as Union industry went into combat mode and made up for the losses of the beginning of the war, the Germans began to flee more frequently.